Arcane Wilds is a special strategy game indeed. I initially covered this hidden gem a few months ago, and my takeaway was that it was amazing to have something that, while still being in development, actually feels like something fresh and completely new. That's because of Arcane Wilds' main concepts, which revolve around player choice and longevity, choosing customization and challenge in favor of the same old RTS formula you've seen a million times. And now, as I'm collaborating with Avancadia, I'm going to tell you exactly why Arcane Wilds is so different and what's happened in the past months to improve it even further. Arcane Wilds is currently offering a completely free playtest on Steam, and while you're here, if you love strategy games and want to see more, it would mean a lot if you took the time to make a simple click and sub to the channel. It really goes a long way. In this game, you're not just fighting battle to battle like in most RTS games, but we can actually get context in the form of a hub area. This hub is where you get to invest in improvements and upgrades, and what you bring back from your missions will in turn affect the next one. You choose what you take with you into your next skirmish, where the bulk of the game lies. Arcane Wilds does indeed revolve around taking out enemy forces, exploring the land around you, and gather the resources you find, but it adds an extra layer of excitement into the mix by making us actually gather the resources we find. That's right, you not only have to excavate the resources here, but actually take them back to your base. There's also the factor of corrupted ground and what corruption can do for you, both in terms of upgrading buildings, but also increasing your unit capacity. What's more is that there's objectives to complete per map where it's possible to really mess things up for the enemy, like when you were trying to take down a massive beast, but the enemy comes in at the last second and snaps your prize away. There's even multiplayer here, making this a kind of strategy MMO where you can join your friends when you want to. That's the overall gist then, but today I'll be talking about some of the awesome new features that keep being added in. A major part of Arcane Wilds is, as mentioned, your hub area, the island where you invest the resources you win and gather in your battles, and many of the improvements since last time have happened in areas relating to it. For example, if you want to make the really major improvements to your units that carry on from battle to battle, you need to invest points into their corresponding barracks. These saber barracks lets you put points into the saber infantry, allowing you to raise their health, armor, or attack power, and similar buffs go for every other barracks as well. But here's the thing. Even with a massive amount of resources, you can't just upgrade everything you want. You can only unlock skills allowed by your current overall base level, and even then, you ultimately need to upgrade your headquarters level to boot. Further, the skills you unlock per level don't all combine into some super unit. No, you actually have to prioritize which upgrades you want. This means that you have to choose, at least per level, if you want that health boost, or if it's better to have units that deal more damage. At the same time, once you've actually unlocked several levels at a time, you can always mix and match skills before and after battles, meaning you can try out different playstyles. You'll also have to think about which units you prefer here, because if you love those long-range snipers like I do, you better invest your points into sniper barracks. What's more is that you get to essentially choose your unit loadout. You always have a certain number of units you can start your expeditions with, and you generally do well to have most of them be pioneers, because pioneers can chop trees and gather resources. But if you do want a head start in the war department, you can always swap out a pioneer or two for a saber or sniper unit, for example, and if so, you better make sure that the upgrade you choose for those units suits your playstyle. You can even bring shock cavalry from the hub here, which is a unit you otherwise won't be able to recruit until you reach a higher tier level on the battlefield. The upgrades not only work on a unit type basis, by the way, but also on a veterancy level, meaning you can even tailor how powerful your veterans turn out to be. Alternatively, you can choose to feature fewer starting units in exchange for more starting wood. What's more though, is that Arcane Wilds now features all new biomes and therefore new boss types and challenges. You can only reach them if you actually upgrade your harbor. This lets you reach new biomes and their all new terrain generation, and each biome sports a unique mystical creature you'll probably ultimately need to deal with. When you now arrive on the field, you'll notice that things are a bit more shrouded in darkness than they used to be. And well, thick black fog of war now covers every inch of undiscovered map. That means that recruiting spotters, essentially scout units, is more important than ever, because if you really want to get a head start, you should probably know where your wanted resources are, and where your enemies might be located. The fact that you need to carefully choose your loadout or units obviously remained in the game's first versions too, but it's even more important now, especially because each unit has their own strengths and weaknesses that are amplified by the improved skill system. What's new about the maps is that the other factions are now much more present. Whichever enemy faction you're up against, they'll now be populating the map much more from the start, as they not only sport a main base, but also several smaller outposts. If you're keen on taking the initiative, these outposts are prime targets for assaults, and even hide resources you really should be using instead of them. As always, fighting and winning battles, and of course bringing sweet corruption loot back home, will increase that fame level of yours. So going on the offensive is not just smart in a winning the battle sense, but making the overall experience lean more in your favor. Each expedition has you encounter a main objective you choose upon embarking, like facing a horde of enemies or collecting relics from especially nasty enemies. But what's new now is the addition of side missions, unique tasks that appear as you explore the map and come across them. It's a neat addition if you're feeling cocky, and if you want an even bigger reward upon victory, and helps you change up every map. One of the most exciting features to me personally though, on top of everything else already mentioned, is Arcane Wilds' introduction of Steam Workshop integration. For a game this early in production, it's honestly a really awesome feature, and based on the kind of mods that are out there right now, it goes to show how versatile and unique this game actually is. Arcane Wilds is made to be extremely multiplayer friendly, shown off every time you begin an expedition by the way, as you can choose to play them with other people. And so, one of these mods has essentially created a MOBA mod, but perhaps my favorite mod thus far is one that very smartly creates a tower defense mode. I don't know how they've done it, but the mod very smartly turns individual range units into de facto towers. I struggled initially because I thought you could only recruit units, but no, with enough wood resources, which dead enemies leave behind, you can actually upgrade them as well. This meant that I could not only get veteran snipers on my side, but even cannons, which definitely comes in handy when you're facing either blob enemies or those massive creatures come stomping along. Even so, it's certainly very early days for the Steam Workshop, but I think it goes to show how versatile and user-friendly this engine is even now. Arcane Wilds is still in early days, but the game is steadily getting updated from its passionate developers, and it's consistently garnering a loyal following. It's currently offering a much more fleshed out playtest version on Steam than what we received in the past, which you really need to check out if you feel like playing a real-time strategy game that's actually attempting something new and fresh. Overall, I continue to love the historically inspired setting here, even though we obviously have some fantasy elements. But what I like is that fantasy never interferes with how the game feels in a negative way. In fact, because your units always feel like they seem part historically authentic, it actually feels like a challenge when you meet the enemy mythical creatures. It's the enemy that's mythical, not your units first and foremost, and I think that helps to ground this experience despite taking place in this mythical world. In the end, I highly recommend checking out Arcane Wilds' playtest on Steam right now, and to even test the workshop mods if you're so inclined. And tell your friends as well, since this is after all a game that seeks to truly combine amazing RTS features with a fun and fully integrated multiplayer experience. And of course for free. Let me know your thoughts on Arcane Wilds in the comments, and as always, remember to leave a like and sub to the channel. Thank you so much for watching, thank you so much to Avancadia for sponsoring this video, and I'll see you next time. Cheers!